We are a nation founded on the idea of freedom and also the truth of slavery. We are a nation born with racism and racial inequality and the belief that Black people are not worthy of the same things as white people, literally in the genetic DNA of who we are.
When we come together across lines of race, when we see each other's humanity, the sky is the limit for what we can accomplish.
It's crucial that we be able to understand that the battles behind us are bigger than the battles in front of us. That we live in a society that is altogether more democratic than it had ever been intended to be.
Symbols and names and iconography aren't just symbols. They're reflective of the stories that people tell. And the
Well, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties, which is fine. The devil is a lie, y'all. I was trying to drop some Black history knowledge for y'all today, but it's okay. It's okay, Marissa. We'll go ahead and exit out of that and hop right into it. But y'all got the gist of it. It's Black History Month, y'all. Good afternoon and welcome to Casa LA's Fireside Chat. I'm Charity Chandler Cole, the CEO of Casa LA. At Casa LA, we organize the community to show up in life and in court to advocate for children and families in LA County's overburdened child welfare and juvenile justice systems. Through an intentional, restorative, and culturally responsive lens, we train a village of committed, consistent, and caring adults who provide equitable, life-affirming connections. Our vision is a Los Angeles County in which all children and families have equitable access to the resources and support they need to be whole and thrive. Our mission and vision cannot be accomplished until our children live in a world that is equitable and just. That's why we're committed to doing our part to address racial injustice in the child welfare and juvenile justice systems, and using this platform, our Fireside Chats, to bring communities and various stakeholders together to have real conversations about what's happening in the world of child welfare in LA County, with the hope of building awareness, informing our communities, activating a safe space for all, and strengthening our ability to advocate for our youth. Now, y'all know we cannot have Black History and Valentine's in the same month without acknowledging and celebrating a few Black-led orgs that we love. I have the privilege and honor of introducing you to a phenomenal group of ladies that I adore, respect, and admire, and all of whom are dedicated to transforming the lives of our youth and families in LA County and beyond. And I was telling them earlier, hold on to your seats because I'm going to read the whole bios because they are just so phenomenal that I want y'all to get all of who they are. And so first up, and no, she's not my sister or my cousin, but she's my sister friend and my sister girl, Taiji Charity, who is the CEO and Executive Director of Kids in the Spotlight. Taiji is a multifaceted social entrepreneur, wife, and mother, renowned for founding Kids in the Spotlight, known as KITS, which is a nonprofit organization that empowers youth in the foster care system through the transformative art of filmmaking. Through KITS, foster youth are provided a creative outlet and platform to overcome trauma and share their stories through award-winning short films, gaining recognition both nationally and internationally. With numerous media accolades, including features on The Kelly Clarkson Show, Entertainment Tonight, The Insider, The Jimmy Jeffrey Show, The Ellen DeGeneres Show, The LA Times, and more, Taiji is making a profound impact in the social entrepreneurship sphere. Holding a Bachelor of Science in Accounting from Oral Roberts University and an MBA in Nonprofit Management from the American Jewish University, Taiji continues her commitment to social change. Taiji's recent endeavor, the KITS Production Studio with Purpose, is an innovative earn-as-you-learn workforce development site for youth impacted by foster care. The studio offers industry professionals full-service production sets, allowing them to pay it forward by renting the studio for their projects and hiring youth as production assistants. So if y'all need space, hit up Taiji. She got you, okay? Additionally, Taiji is the author of Not Your 9-to-5 Girl, a revealing book detailing her personal journey of overcoming discrimination and rejection, inspiring her to establish Kids in the Spotlight. Her book is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and the book's proceeds contribute to the impactful mission and work of Kids in the Spotlight. Next up, catch my breath, y'all, because all this awesomeness, I have to catch my breath. Janet Denise Kelly who is the executive director of Sanctuary of Hope. Janet has offered more than 2 decades of accomplishments in the housing and the nonprofit sector. Beginning her career in fair housing, Ms. Kelly developed a strong interest in addressing housing issues, implementing community and economic development initiatives, and building affordable housing opportunities. Leveraging an impressive portfolio of experience, Ms. Kelly has proven to be an adaptive and responsive leader in the community. She is the founder and executive director of Sanctuary of Hope, a countywide organization with locations in South Los Angeles, also known as South Central, because I was born and raised in South Central, South Bay, Compton, and the Antelope Valley, that provides stabilization services for youth and young adults ages 16 to 25 who are housing or economic insecure, child welfare or justice impacted, trafficking or domestic violence survivors, or at promise. Throughout her career, Ms. Kelly has won many community service awards. She serves on youth service boards, is a member of local, state, and national housing organizations, and participates in economic revitalization activities. She was selected to serve on the steering committee for the Los Angeles County's Black People Experiencing Homelessness Initiative, and most recently appointed to the advisory committee for the California Interagency Council on Homelessness. Ms. Kelly's greatest passion is helping young people to elevate. She seeks to change the landscape of their future by bringing capital and social resources that will help them become successful and thrive. She was honored by the Crenshaw Chamber of Commerce as the 2016 Business of the Year, along with recent recognitions by the California Legislative Black Caucus as the 2021 59th Assembly District Unsung Hero, or Shero, 2022 Black Women's Collective Trailblazers and Leaders, and 2023 SCLC Mary McLeod Bethune Award, and California Assembly District 55's 2023 Nonprofit of the Year. Get it, girl. She earned her BA from UCLA and holds an MBA from the University of Phoenix, and is the loving mother of 4 children. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Theon Gordon, who is the executive director of She Ready Foundation. Dr. Gordon is an accomplished business strategist, coach, and trainer. Her work has created growth-oriented businesses, strong board governance, productive teams, and sustainable fundraising strategies. She has raised over $50 million for causes and is committed to strategic growth in the social profit sector using an equity lens to assure success. An Emmy-nominated producer, Dr. Theon's ability to shed light on causes that brings positive impact is evidenced in the piece From Watts to Africa that showcased in the 2015 Pan-African Film Festival. This film highlights the journey of 17 inner-city youth traveling to Africa through a leadership program. Her leadership includes 10 years as executive director growing a place called Home Youth Center in South Los Angeles, 5 years with Coach Art, mentoring chronically ill youth and growing the platform to a regional capacity. And currently, Dr. Theon serves as interim executive director of the She Ready Foundation, providing resources to youth impacted by foster care. She has served as an Annenberg Foundation champion, executive service coach and consultant, and board member of the AARP Executive Council, Pacifica Graduate Institute, and Whitehall Arts Academy. Dr. Theon's gift in bringing stories of significance to light for enhanced organizational success is unparalleled. She works with enthusiasm towards making a difference in the lives of the underserved through collaborative approaches and encourages youth and adults alike to bloom where you're planted. Welcome, y'all. It was so important for me to read y'all bios because we know you all as the executive directors of these organizations. And I think sometimes people lose sight of their journey. They lose sight of all we've had to do to get to where we are. And because y'all are so humble, people don't really understand all your accomplishments or even know about all your accomplishments and your journey. And I'm just so blessed and honored to kind of just shine a light on all that you are. And you're just so phenomenal. And one of my goals when I first started at CASA LA was to strengthen our partnerships with other community-based organizations so that we're not working in silos and so that we're building capacity to serve all of our youth in LA County's child welfare system. And I just want to just give you all a huge thank you for being proud and strong partners of CASA of Los Angeles and always being there and ready to support our kiddos. And we're always there and ready to support you all, but we are literally, changing the tide and changing what it means to show up in support of each other in the nonprofit space. So thank you all so very much. So let's get into it. And I'll let whoever wants to go first. If not, I'll just pick on you. But during Black History Month, we reflect on the contributions and achievements of the Black community. And you have all contributed so much to our children, Black, Brown, and other, in the child welfare system. And so I want you all to, we heard a little bit about your organizations and your bios, but tell us a little more about your organizations and how does this month in particular inspire or reflect in the work you do and the communities that you serve? Who wants to go first? I'm gonna go in order on my screen. If not, it's you, Taiji. You're up.
No worries. You know, for Kids in the Spotlight, it's so exciting just to think as we celebrate Black History Month, I'm always reflecting on, you know, Dr. King's speech, I Have a Dream, and building an organization from ground zero, and understanding that we are being that beacon of light, of hope for kids that have been impacted by the system. Last year, on Dr. King's birthday, or the day we celebrated Dr. King's birthday, we got the keys to our building, which is our production studio with purpose that you spoke about. And it is a full featured production studio with multiple sets that's designed as a earn as you learn workforce development program for kids impacted by the system. So for us, just reminding our Black and Brown kids that they matter, their stories matter, and not only do they matter, but we're equipping them for jobs. We are eliminating the excuses that we can't find any talented young people of color. That's a lie. So we are putting them in the forefront and doing it and really celebrating our history. It reminds me of Dr. King, just I have a dream. And I think we're living the dream. We're living
I love that. And you are living the dream. But most importantly, Taiji, when I get to interact with the kids that go through your program, let me not call them kids, the young adults that go through your program, they are living their dream too. And they're able to tell their story in a way that manifests for them and that works for them. And through that, they're finding healing and power. Yes. And to see how your organization, you know, is creating dynamic and powerful short films, but realizing the healing that is taking place and the restoration that is taking place and the, you know, feeling and being seen that is taking place with our young people is so powerful. And I see young people come out of your program more aware of themselves, more confident in their abilities, their ability to advocate for themselves because of how they were able to project their stories through their films. Is just so immensely powerful. And that is our ancestors' wildest dreams for our young people, despite what they go through and what they've experienced, to come out on top, to push through that adversity. Absolutely. And find, you know, power in their pain and power, you know, through their purpose is so profound and powerful. And that's what makes your organization one of my favorites. And it's just so important in this space. And I think it's underrepresented in the child welfare landscape in general, because you're not one of those organizations that are offering the very specific direct services we expect or want organizations to offer or want to fund. And it's just so many missed opportunities for any funders that are out there or that are listening. We want to see real healing and real power and real opportunity. We need to fund organizations like Taiji's, because the way these children and young people change and grow is just dynamic, and you won't even be able to understand it unless you see it firsthand. So I just want to thank you again for how you're contributing to our Black history through your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Absolutely. And it's a joy watching these young people go from cocoons to beautiful butterflies, ready to take on the world. And they're prepared, you know, preparing them emotionally and mentally. And you can prepare all the services or provide all the services you want. If they're not whole and ready to receive those services, we're just going to be in a perpetual state of trying to provide services. And now we're training up leaders.
Exactly. I wish I had a program like yours when I was in the system. Dr. Gordon. And my Dr. Gordon's in Portugal, y'all. She is joining us overseas. So I am just so glad that you're here.
I am excited about that. Well, I'm excited to be here. And as I think about your question of Black History Month, of course, I run She Ready Foundation. It's Tiffany Haddish's philanthropic arm. And Tiffany was in the system. So this is something that is dear to her heart. She founded She Ready Foundation because she said she remembers having to put all of her things in garbage bags, and it made her feel like trash when she moved from home to home. And she wanted to make sure no other child felt like that. And she wanted them to be able to dream. and live into their dreams. So She Ready Foundation inspires, protects, and provides resources for youth who are impacted by foster care. But what we do that I think is so significant to today and to Black History Month and Black History Year, it's all the time Black History for me, but it's how we bring people together, and how this mashup that you have right now is amazing, because we've had the opportunity to work with the Sanctuary of Hope and work with some of the youth that have traveled with her and have benefited from that program. We've worked with Kids in the Spotlight, and our youth have went through that program. And we've worked with CASA and encouraging volunteers to come out, volunteers of color. We need some Black and brown volunteers, y'all. So we encourage that. And we encourage Tiffany to use her platform to help these things happen. And so the awareness that comes in bringing this together and allowing our young people to see, when they say we can't work together, well, these sisters right here working together, you're going to tell me we can't work together? Because we do work together and we have each other's back. And that's what I think as I reflect on Black History Month and where we are, where we've been, and how we've moved forward. I think the unity of this community is what I'm really feeling strong about right now. We had a young person not too long ago, had some challenges, and we had placed them over with Kids in the Spotlight, and it came back around that there was some issues. So it was sort of like, well, should I talk to them? Should this person talk to them? Who should talk to them? Because we want to make sure we get through, and we want to make sure they're not doing self-sabotage. We're like, oh no, you're going to be a success. We're not settling for anything other than that. So let's get this back on track so that we can move it forward. And those are the kind of collaborations and the work that, as you mentioned, Charity, a lot of times people don't necessarily want to pay for that because they don't see the benefit of it. But that's what we need. We need this community supporting our young people. When they say it takes a village, it's for real. I mean, it really takes a mama village, but that's another story. So that's my thing. And I just, as I reflect on Black History Month, I just love this network that we have here. And I believe this is what's going to make the difference in bringing justice for our young people.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you mentioned unity. And that is one of the principles of Stanco for y'all. So I'm going to touch on it just a little bit. Because when we think about our Black history, even, leading up to the civil rights movement, we were very unified. And then something happened. And a lot of it's tied to funding. A lot of it's tied to, how we perceive and understand nonprofit organizations, which is why we can have a whole topic on decolonizing the nonprofit space. But through that, we have been forced to compete with each other. There is only room for one organization to do one type of work, to the point where we not only were siloed, but we weren't able to share our best practices. We weren't able to share our resources. We weren't able to network and support each other in the way in which we should. And as a result, the people that were the most impacted were the people we were serving. And so now we're being intentional about changing that and purposefully and intentionally unifying. And I have funders who could watch this right now and could tell you that we are building capacity. We're, no longer going to allow you to fund our organization in a way that forces us to carve out other people, limit our ability to expand our capacity and support all of our children and families. And it's, being intentional about having each other's back, like you said, Theon. And when we do that, when we're talking to funders and when we're talking to elected officials and we're talking to supporters, we create a system where they're forced to acknowledge and support all of us. But it starts with us. We don't need funders. We don't need other people to give us permission to unify. We have to purposefully unify. And one of the things I realized, and I think what the secret sauce is that no matter how much money is out there, no matter how many laws are passed, unless we agree to do the work, it doesn't get done. And so we need to take that power and say, we're not going to do this work. We're not going to take your funding until you play game ball with us. Imagine there being billions of dollars out there and no one's going to spend it. It kind of forces people to have to change how they show up and change how they support. And the good thing is we're seeing in philanthropy and other places that they are starting to change. It's starting to be more supportive, but it starts with us, as not only Black-led organizations, but nonprofits in general that are centering and serving our youth to take that position and unite and show up in support of each other. Because if we don't, we can't expect anyone else to do it for us. So I'm just grateful that we have kind of taken those blinders off and we're willing to show up in support of each other, highlight each other's work, and help each other build capacity. So thank you. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Gordon. Miss Kelly. And Miss Kelly's not feeling well, so we're gonna take it, we're gonna be very easy on her today.
I'm good. I'm actually enjoying the conversation and just listening to what we're not going to stand for and what we're going to take back. You know, Black History Month is really, I mean, it's something that's centered into a lot of what Sanctuary of Hope does, which is being really Black centered, being a Black affirming organization. And unlike everyone else, of course, we are in the crisis human services space and the youth development space. And we came into being simply because there weren't a lot of spaces for Black young folks to go when they found themselves in a crisis, right? And a lot of it's has been attributed to tropes and narratives and stereotypes about young Black men and women, so that every time they walked in the door, they either were the last to be served or the last to be served without being heard about what it was they needed to be served for. And so, and I say that unapologetically. I mean, I mean, those of you who know me, I do it all the time. I say I'm very unapologetic about what we do at Sanctuary of Hope, the centering that we do, the affirmations that we do. And it does that mean that it's not inclusive of everyone else, because it absolutely is. But I just think it's always very important to know that when we are helping young people grow, helping them elevate, we have to affirm who they are, and we have to understand where they came from and who they are and how we see them. And so when I think of Black history, this is just me being another extension of Ella Baker, the Shirley Chisholms, the Fannie Lou Hamers. You know, you respond to a call, because when something go down, who you calling? You calling us.
I know that's right. So I'm gonna keep you there, because this you're going right into my next question. And by us, she means Black women. There's this whole saying out there, Google it. But as leaders of Black-led organizations, how do you believe your cultural background and experiences influence your approach to leadership? Because I would say that we lead a little differently. And when you kind of touched on it earlier, we have nonprofits really exist because government and private organizations are not filling a need in our communities. And oftentimes it's Black, brown, and poor communities. And so how does your background and lived experience really influence how you show up in these spaces? And then I'll throw that to everyone else after. Janet, you were kind of already going there.
You want me to go there?
Yeah, I want
well,
you.
I just say this. I just say this. I could only be authentically me. I could be authentically what the young people who come through our doors. I could be only authentically community. I mean, I grew up a PK kid. For those of you who may not know who's in the audience, I'm a preacher's kid. I grew up Church of God in Christ all my whole life. So I have a whole deeper understanding of connection and the need to bring folks in, right? And I think the bringing in is really important, especially in Black leadership and Black spaces, because this is where belonging happens. This is where otherization gets dismantled. So I'll leave it there and kick it off to the next person.
I love that. Who wants to go next? I love that, because when you're able to exude that, it gives the people that are working for you and that you're serving the power and ability to do that themselves. And I never saw that growing up. And as you're answering these questions, I want you to also maybe touch on, were you always like that? Did your Blackness and your pride and your confidence always show through in your leadership? Because I knew in the beginning for me, I didn't. I code switched a lot. I don't even know if I want to call it imposter syndrome, because I don't think I was, an imposter. I felt like I wasn't welcome into spaces that were there to serve me. I wasn't pretending to be something that I wasn't. I just was not, I don't even know how to describe it, y'all, but it was something that was in me that caused me to hide my pride. And, you know, the confidence that you see now was not on display. Even as I was sitting on boards and committees and commissions, I was quiet for years because I felt like I wasn't smart enough or bright enough or wide enough, or, you know, other people were able to articulate my problem better than me with their little fancy degrees. And I just was like, wow, wow. And so did you always have that level of awareness and confidence in your leadership?
I want to add something to that, Charity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we operate in our duality, we do operate intact. So we don't always have to be vocal and present because we know how to operate in those spaces and how to take how we operate in those spaces to broaden our leadership level, right? It broadens our confidence, especially when we are a part of various systems that all of us are on that are around eradicating systems of injustice, right?
Yeah. I love
and
that.
instead of imposter system, I would say it's an intelligent system because we know how to operate, how we supposed to operate wherever we are. So when you're sitting back calculating and strategically figuring out when you're going to speak, that's part of your intelligence system. That's not, you're not being an imposter. That's who you are. That's who you are culturally. That's who you are inside. That's who you are as a woman. That's who you are as a Black woman. We are smart enough to handle that duality, as Janet talked about. All of this, everything we do is based on our culture and our experiences. Our conscious and our unconscious biases are there, whether they be good or bad, because I have some good ones and I still am working on some of the other ones.
We all are.
It is just who we are.
Yeah.
And when we bring that to the table, that is how our young people respond to us so positively. That is how we can do what you're talking about, Charity, in terms of changing that landscape and saying, you know what? We're going to do the work we have to do, but we're not even going to do it with your money. We don't even want you to be a part of this anymore. We're not letting our young people down. But we're not going to let you be a part of this and destroy it by telling us what we have to do when we know what we have to do.
Right.
We aunties, we mamas, we know how to talk to our young people, and we know how to talk to you.
Yeah.
And so that's the intelligence network that we have. That's where, when you talk about our culture and our experiences, how it helped us or how it influenced the way we do our work. It's everything in how we do our work. It's the only way we would be able to do it. And I, like you, Charity, was afraid at times to speak up, didn't think I knew the answer. And one day when I finally used my voice and heard a sigh of relief in a room, like, oh my gosh, I was waiting for somebody to say that. Oh my gosh, and I was sort of like, these idiots, you know, was in my head. I was just like, why did they make me think I was stupid? And then I said, no, they didn't make me think that. That was just my own fear or my own protection of me. I wanted to protect who I am and make sure that I'm okay. And that's smart. That's who we are. We're intelligent. It's intelligence syndrome versus
intelligence syndrome. Yes.
Okay. That's what we have. At least we as Black women, I know we got that.
I love that. I love that. And I think when I started in this space 14 years ago, I was like in my early 20s. And so lived experience wasn't a thing. Like we don't want to hear from people with lived experience. We don't want to hear from people that look like me. And so I was the first in every situation. And so for me, I didn't see the Taijis and Theons and Janets of the world leading organizations, which in a way silences you or makes you feel like you're traversing in this unknown territory because you want to show up differently. So what's beautiful about your leadership is that our young people in our leadership is that our young people get to see themselves in us and have something to look forward to and aspire to. Because when I started in this journey, I had not one single person that I could look to that looked like me, that was doing the things I was just beginning to do to say, okay, this is how I moved. I'm sure they were out there. I just didn't know who they were in my little tiny bubble. And so that was such a challenge for me. So seeing how you, but to your point, Theon, but when I was finally sick of hearing everyone else's answers and solutions, when I finally spoke up, I haven't stopped talking since. Not stop talking sense. But it's just powerful to see how you all show up just authentically in your space and how it informs the work you're doing and how you're inspiring young other people. And Taiji, I'm sure for you too, how does, you wrote a whole book about, your experiences coming up in this space and the discrimination you experience. How has those experiences in your cultural background influenced the leader you are today?
Yeah, well, I had to become the I can show you better than I can tell you kind of girl, because I had to learn to do the work in terms of transcending the barriers, because there were just so many different barriers. And I came from the corporate background, right? I'm a small town girl from Louisiana, grew up in the church as well. Both my grandmothers worked for white families. And, they felt like these were good white people that really looked after them and took care of them. So I grew up with we just love people. We just love people in spite of. And in the corporate world, as my husband said, I had to get my Black woman wake up call. I had to be reminded that, honey, they see color whether you want to see color or not. And so for me, I really had to think strategically of how do I just build in spite of? And so that's the sort of the work that I've done. I became that I'll just show you better than I can tell you, because I get exhausted with with trying to convince. And you already know, Charity, my trepidation and insecurities around just fundraising. Like, I get tired of pounding the pavement begging for money. And it come from the corporate world, because I was working my butt off. They would give me all the hard cases. I came with the claims background, where I handled workers' comp and auto claims and all the difficult cases that's got to be in court fighting. They would give those to me. But when it came time to give the raises, I was always overlooked. I was overlooked so much that it ended up leading to a lawsuit. And I ended up winning. But for somebody like me who just want to love people, it's like it was draining emotionally to even have to go to that point. And I'm like, what's the problem? Is it really just because this skin is Black? My husband once told me, he said, Taj, it doesn't matter whether they like you or not. It's what matters is how they treat you. And I started paying attention to how I was being treated. So I'm like, okay. So all of that has definitely shaped who I am as a leader, especially leading Black and brown kids and making sure they understand, look, you can show up as authentic as you want to, but there's a world that's out there that's judging you simply because of the color of your skin.
Yeah.
How do you do the work in spite of that?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So I'm going to skip my order of questions here, because I really want to touch on some of the barriers now that you're bringing some of this up that Black-led organizations face. And this isn't to complain about these issues, but to highlight them to the masses so that we can correct them and so that other people can be aware, we can find opportunities. And what's special about all three of you, and that I don't have the privilege of understanding or knowing, is that you all are founders or first executive directors of your organizations. And so it's different when you're coming into an established organization like CASA and running it, because I didn't have to build the credibility for this organization. I have to maintain it because they're like the first, what? Hold up. We can talk about that later. But you guys had a vision and you saw a need and you created an organization. And I could only imagine there were many, many challenges you experienced then and are experiencing today when it comes to the work you're doing. And I want to touch on some of those. And I think, Taj, I remember we talked about this a little bit in one of our fellowship meetings, but I want you to highlight, what are some of those challenges you experience as not only a Black-led organization, but as a founder of your organization in this work?
Well, definitely funding. That's the first thing. I had to learn that people weren't necessarily funding mission and impact. They were funding people. And so that was one of the biggest challenges. And then, of course, the growing pains that come with it. You're trying to hire people that look like you, and you're trying to do things differently than the corporate space that you came from. But then you're dealing with people that come with trauma. They come with their own stuff. And then now we're in a society right now where everything is elevated around really self-care. And it's hard when you're a service provider trying to be that for youth who need it the most, but you got staff who are also in need of some of the same services you provide for youth. So you're trying to juggle that as you build. So, for me, it really is I think some of the biggest challenges is putting the right people in place to help lead and grow the organization to where we're going. And then to show the importance of what we're doing, that it's not just something, oh, they're making a film, that's so cute. It's like, no, this is beyond cute. This is not about being cute. This is about social justice. This is about hearing their voices. This is about preparing them. This is about, their stories matter, and elevating their stories, because you don't understand the realities of what happened in foster care because you don't hear it. Christian Bale, the actor, just did an article in the Hollywood Reporter. It's like, I had no idea. LA has the largest percentage of foster youth in the nation. There's no excuse for no one to not know the needs and the reality of these kids in the system. So, really for me, it really is getting that awareness out, getting the funding to support the work, and then building a really strong team around the work. So building from ground zero, honey, it has caused a whole lot of stress.
Yes.
But we are determined to just be undeniable in the space.
Yeah, and you've come so far since when you started. So at the end, we're gonna talk about ways in which everyone that watches this can support your orgs. Dr. Gordon, what about you? And I know you're fairly new still. So,
well, actually, I'm not the founder of She Ready Foundation.
But you're the first executive director.
I'm the first executive director, and so I'll say I have challenges in two areas. So first of all, I have followed founders. Founders are these visionary leaders that just do things by hook, nook, or crook. They're going to get it done. Like Taiji said, I'm going to show them what I can do versus what I can do. And they just do whatever it takes to get something done. So founders are somewhat gods. And when you have to follow a founder, it can be very challenging because your board normally wants you to just keep things the way the founder did it. Yep. You just need to keep it going this way. But there are new issues out here now. The founder did a wonderful job. I'm not taking anything away, but there's some different things that are happening. Laws have changed. Laws need to change. Different things are happening. And so having those challenges of having to follow a founder and having the institutions want to just keep doing the same thing. Can you just keep giving us this number? Just keep giving us this number. If you can just get 20 of them through each time, that works just fine. No. That's not what we need to do. So the challenge of getting people to really be aware of what the needs are for young people or for whatever your cause is.
Yeah.
I think that's a big challenge for people to really get it, for that light bulb to actually come on. That's a big challenge. For starting a fresh organization, for starting a new organization, the challenge that I have is a little different because I have a celebrity founded organization. Right. And so people will look at the organization like, oh, she don't need anything. And because she has a celebrity. And that happened at a previous organization I was at as well, because we had an advisory board with a lot of celebrities. Right. And so people believe that the celebrities are supposed to just throw all of their money into it and the organization is fine. But that's not how it works. They do their job. They founded something, but they're doing a job and they have bills to pay as well. And so there's still fundraising that has to happen. And I think the final challenge, I would say, and both of those, to me, they're not really challenges. They're just stepping stones. We just have to keep on stepping on those stones and building them up. There's enough money out here for everybody. I don't know why people think there's a lack. God has given somebody else something that was intended for me. So we just all need to understand that. And people would ask me, why'd you give somebody that grant information? I thought they were only giving away this. Because if it's for them, it's for them. And if it's for me, it's for me. And guess what? It could be for both of us because people will see that. And so we have to stop thinking there's a lack. And that's where I think the third challenge is. Our young people come not believing in themselves enough. They come with the stories that people have told them. You're at risk. You're not supposed to live past 14. You're not supposed to do this. They get all this from the media, from society. Everyone is saying how poorly they're supposed to behave. And then organizations like these on here, on this Fireside chat, have to do the uplift. And it's sort of like, oh my gosh, I got to pull them back up again, pull them back up again. You're not at risk. You're at promise. I see the promise in you. So we have to stop labeling things in ways that debilitate and downgrade our people and our young people. We have to lift them up. You're an at-promise person, maybe coming from an at-risk environment. You want to call the environment at risk, fine, but don't call my children at risk. Don't tell them that they're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Tell them where they're supposed to be and how they can do what they are supposed to do. Let them know they're on purpose. We're the only organization in the world, the only genre of business that tells people what we don't do before we tell people what we do. Oh, I'm profit. No, we are social profits. We are purpose driven. We have to start changing the way we language to ourselves and to our young people. And I think that's a big challenge for us. And this initiative that you're talking about, Charity, in terms of bringing us together and starting to say, no, this is how we do the work and this is how it will be done.
Yeah.
That I think is the power move right there. So
absolutely.
Yeah, the challenges are just what we say ourselves, how we speak to ourselves. That's my final challenge.
Everything you said is so important. I remember when we were, I think our gala last year, we were highlighting other nonprofits and people are like, what? Like, these are your funders. What if they give to them? I'm like, then they give to them. You're like, we need to share, you know, not only the wealth, but the awareness with other folks. And so I love what you said, what's meant for us would be, and denying someone else or some other org something doesn't mean that I'm going to get it. Doesn't mean I'm going to be blessed. And if anything, I may be missing out on our blessing simply because I'm preventing someone else from having access to it. But what you said about, you know, coming into an established org really resonated with me, because with Casa LA, you know, I was not only the first person of color to run this org, but also the first Black person and the first person with lived experience. And I say this often, but this was the first job that I ever took where I said, I'm not going to go in first and then reveal who I am and try to change things up. I'm going to come in strong and say, this is who I am. This is what I plan to do. Are you game? Because I don't want any surprises. And I know in theory, everyone was like, yes. In practice, scared the hell out of a lot of people. And I know I probably have board members and other people listening, but they know it was hard. It was challenging. And I knew I wasn't going to come in and do business as usual. And I came from a place of, I would say, amazing privilege, because the CEO before me was amazing, Wendy Julian, and she really set an amazing foundation for things I wanted to do as it pertained to racial justice and social justice, and leverage her privilege as a white woman to get those things started in a way where it wasn't just me coming in as the first person of color and Black person, you know, going hard, but it was still extremely challenging because people wanted me to continue things business as usual. And I'm like, hell no, we're going to shake things up, and it's happening. And you already hired me, so it's not going to look good if you know, let me go. So you just got to roll with it. You just got to roll with it. They know it. They know it. I just said it. You just got to roll with it. So, but through that, we have, you know, changed so much, and our board is extremely strong. Our organization is extremely strong, and we're still going through some growing pains. But as a result, we're moving from performance to impact, and having such a greater impact on the organization because of the lived experience, because of, you know, how we show up culturally and otherwise, and because of our ability to partner with other orgs. It's just been such a phenomenal evolution that's extremely necessary. And so when we show up as our authentic selves and allow our lived experience and who we are culturally to thrive in this space, you see change happen. You've seen change happen, and it's so necessary. But that was a really, you know, I had moments where I was going to like walk away, where I'm like, you know, I'm getting so much resistance. Even like you said, language. The first thing I did was, we're not changing our mission and vision. We're changing how we articulate it. The words that we use to describe the children and families we're serving. That's not who they are. That's not what they are. And so we're going to change this language. But even that was a fight in a battle, you know, but we won. And as a result, we're changing how society perceives the children we're working with. These aren't poor little kids that need to be saved. These are children and communities that need to be free of oppression, free of racism, and they need to be centered in every single thing we do and how we show up. And as a result, our language, how we approach our children, how we even write court reports is changing because of the dynamic and diverse leadership that we have in place. And it's not just me, it's my whole team. You know, being able to bring in their phenomenal, you know, input and ideas and ways of thinking has really changed everything. So all that to say, everything you said really resonated with some of the challenges I had in this role. But Miss Kelly, what about you?
Well, as a founder, of course, and embarking on creating a whole new program in South LA almost 14 years ago, it was having folks really believing in the vision that I could create a program that's very Black centered, Black affirming, and creates belonging for young people here within South LA, South Central LA, or however South LA you define yourself, whether it's Canterbury, West Adams, or any of those things, right? Because that's really was kind of the impetus of the founding. I think the greatest challenge will always continue to be remaining authentic to the work, because no matter what, I will say no matter what best practice that comes out that may not include us, no matter what kind of new evidence-informed approach that doesn't include us is out there, there's always that push, right? To where if you're not meeting that, then we don't fund you, right? But then it's the other thing which we've seen the opposite of over the past couple of years is now you are a culturally informed practice. Now you're culturally informed approach, and that's all great. And although we have our great people, our partners that we've worked with for the years that are either Black-led or Latino-led, we've worked with for the years, it's been great, fantabulous, but now everybody else is coming out of the woodworks and they want to work with you, right? And the struggle is always, for me, is, are you genuine? Yeah. Do you believe in the promise and the potential of our young people? Do you believe in belonging? Do you believe that otherization does not fit within a culture or a practice of the work that you do, right? The language thing, I'm so glad we all kind of hit on it, because language matters. And one of the things when I first founded SOH was I eliminated the word client, because of what that word means. And if you know how and where it came from historical standpoint of titleizing people to othering people, you wouldn't use it, right? Especially when you're working with kids, because they're not your client. They're a person who's coming to you in need of support. They're coming to you in need of partnership and mentorship, right? They're coming to you in need of guidance. And so that word, oh my God, I chisel. I chisel when I see it. I chisel when I hear it. I don't even like hearing it even in kind of the kind of political spaces or the social spaces that are out there. But even that, like you can't use baby mama, baby daddy, not up in SOH, because we have co-parents, right? Yeah. And changing that language to how can we support you in being a co-parent not only strengthens family, but it strengthens community. And it gives you a different outlook of who our young people are. Yeah. And I would say that's always the greatest barrier and the challenge, and getting philanthropy and everyone else to come along and see that too.
Oh, wow. I love that. And I was going to say something to earlier comment, and you got me with this language piece. So I forgot what it was, but that is so powerful. And I want us all to just sit back, and not just us here, but anyone watching this, go back and look at the language that you put out there on your website, in your marketing materials, how you're articulating things, certain things in your organization. Like for us, we don't say, foster youth. We say, a youth in foster care, or that's someone that's experienced a foster care system, because that doesn't define us. There's so much that we change. We don't serve children that are abused and neglected. That was one of the first things we changed. We changed children that are disproportionately impacted by our foster care system. And we serve children and families. And so there was so much we just had to change, because when we do that, even something as maybe as small to people, from baby daddy to co-parent, not only does it change how society perceives our young people, it changes how they perceive themselves. Oh, I'm a co-parent. Now I have a different level of accountability and responsibility and acknowledgement in this role that has so much power. that we don't even think about just in language. So I just love that. And I'm so proud of that. And I am going to make a pledge not to use the word baby mama and baby daddy. I don't use it at Costa, but with your family. I'm by even here. I'm going to work on it.
And I was going to ask if anybody had other words, because we say youth impacted by foster care in our materials, but I'm always trying to find other ways of saying the message that we need to say. Now, when I'm writing a grant and I got a certain number of words, I say foster kids. I'm sorry, but because that's I'm writing for them. I'm not writing for the kids.
Yeah.
We say youth in foster care as well, but we often use our young professionals. We like to label them as young professionals since they're up and coming filmmakers. So we use that term a lot as well. But yeah, and then sometimes I think in a few grants they use the term opportunity youth. I don't know where that came from, but they started using that language in some of the narratives that we put out. But yes.
Yeah, but I would even say, Dr. Gordon, in grants, like we've started changing that terminology too, and we're seeing that our funders are addressing it differently too. And so we're trying to we're trying to purposely get them to shift how they talk about our kids and how they, even with, slavery, I don't say slaves, I say enslaved, individuals that were enslaved. And it's really, telling it like it is. And that's part of the education we need to do with our funders, with the terminology they use. And they're like, oh, okay, I didn't know. And they don't know that, so I think it's a great
to get it. And people begin to get it when you talk about things that they can relate to more. For example, I don't say disability, I'll say differently abled people.
Yes.
So
exactly.
when they start hearing things that they can relate to more, then all of a sudden it becomes more relatable. Oh, I understand why you're changing the words.
Exactly. I love that. I want to end with this question, because what's so beautiful about not only leaders with lived experience, but leaders that are Black, brown, coming from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different lived experiences, is that we're seeing young people, aspiring to step up in leadership, aspiring to start their own organizations or to make a difference in their communities, and also in support and advocate for people that have similar backgrounds as themselves, and that are from vulnerable populations like youth and foster care. And so what advice would you give, or do you probably already give, to young aspiring Black leaders who want to make a difference in their communities?
I always tell them, see whose bench you want to come off of, because I really am a firm believer in bench building leadership, right? And I think all of us need to be in spaces where we are prepping, guiding, and pouring into the leadership of folks who are going to be in our space. It's one of the things that I'm currently looking at as I prepare for my succession plan, because I know that I can't go into doing this work at 60 years old, right? And so when I get there, but it's really important to know that I have to invest in folks to build and come into spaces that I know that I am going to transition out of.
Yeah. I love that. What about you, Taiji? What advice would you or do you already give to young
well,
folks?
I subscribe to Nike, just do it. I like that is my biggest advice. But I also tell them, for me personally, the young people we serve, I have an open door policy. There's no excuse. If you have questions, I am open and I connect you with, if I can't answer your question, I'll connect you with people that can. So I'm like, do the research, ask questions, be very inquisitive, be a well-informed decision maker. So even though I'm saying just do it, I want you to have all the tools you need and as much information as you can. And for me, I try to help people avoid some of the mistakes I made when I started out, creating an organization from ground zero with very little information. So yeah, I definitely am that, let's get it done. And once you start, there's no quitting. You have to become undeniable.
Yes, just do it. And would you also say that includes not feeling the need to over plan for things? Planning is good,
Oh yeah,
Sometimes we
absolutely.
overplan and then we don't give ourselves any flexibility to pivot when we need to.
Exactly. And
So,
it also becomes the reason for delays, you know, you're
mhm,
constantly wanting everything perfect. I remember when we did our very first Kids Film Awards that first year, I had one of my board members, and I love her. She still supports the
mhm.
organization. And she said, I don't think we're quite ready to do an award. We need to do this. And I'm like, it's an award celebration. We're giving some kids some awards. Show the films, invite some people. We're gonna give them awards and we're gonna figure it out. So we just did it. And each year we evolved into bigger and bigger and bigger and learning from the mistakes. But yeah, I've never been an over planner. Some
Yes,
people probably say I probably need to plan a little bit more. But yeah,
I love it. I love it. Dr. Gordon, what about you?
I love the impromptu. That's me. But I usually would tell people to listen
Mhm,
with your heart, with your ears, with your mind,
mhm,
learn, and then lead.
mhm,
And I do this through, I had two board members that really helped me to learn this. One, Xander Lurie with Coach Art Organization, mentoring chronically ill youth in the arts and athletics,
mhm,
who just had a passion and a heart for the work. And then Kenneth Carmen, who was with a place called Home, who had the head. Like, you got to do the math and then you can figure the things out. And so I lead with a head, heart, and
mhm,
hunger
mhm,
mindset and passion in what I do. The head, that's do the math. Can you do what you say you're going to do? What do you need to get that done? The heart, of course, you got to have a passion for it and know what it is you want to do. And then the hunger part came from my mama. That's
yeah,
nothing but intuition. What does it say in your gut? The
mhm,
hunger is when that belly starts feeling something, you got to listen.
mhm,
You got to really pay attention to what's going on in your gut. And that's pretty much what I let young people know when they're stepping into leadership
mhm.
positions. In particular, really listen to that gut, because that goes back to our
Oh my
culture, that goes
gosh.
back to who we are and what we just know we know it. But when we don't listen to that gut, that
Mhm,
feeling that's inside, that's where we fall off and make the
mhm,
mistakes. So listen to the gut, use your head, use your heart, but
mhm,
then get that hunger part, that little growl that's going on, the
mhm.
butterflies, they mean something.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. And my little 2 cents is I would say lead from a place of impact. You know, part of why I've been so successful in my little short, 10-year career is because I've never strived to make money. I've never strived to have a fancy title or never wanted to be a CEO unless it was just like I'm a CEO of multiple for-profits. But I never wanted to be a CEO in this space. I always wanted to just make an impact. So whatever led to the biggest impact is where I wanted to be. And through that, it allowed me to elevate and evolve into different leadership positions organically because I was being placed where I needed to be placed. And so realize that if you desire leadership, make sure you're leading from a place of impact and know that the road is going to be bumpy, it's going to be hard, and the road to yes will be paved with no's. And so you can't give up. You can't feel defeated. You look at every barrier as an opportunity to prove people wrong. I get off on proving people wrong. It's like my favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. And we have this mentality sometimes, especially in the Black community, at least where I grew up, was I don't got to prove anything to anybody. We would do our whole little neck thing when we said it. But you do. And you got to prove it to yourself and you got to prove it to the world because our community depends on your leadership. So go after it and don't let a no or you can't do this hold you back. Prove them wrong and lead from a place of impact. And on that note, I just want to thank, I love y'all so much. Thank you so, 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 so much.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Love
Thank
you
you. I just know
too.
we're going to
Love you
burn this place
too.
down.
Yes, I love it. Thank you all and have an amazing, amazing Friday.
All right, you too. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye, Charity.
Bye. Have fun in Portugal.